Okay, so we have a guest, everybody. Do you know who the guest is?
Yes, we can figure out.
Ryan Kirk.
No.
Hello, Ryan. You know, using the reflexive pronouns we saw earlier, this is Ryan Kirk himself.
Himself.
Right. Hello, Ryan. Thank you very much for showing up. And, you know, the guys have questions for you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Zubair. It's great to see you again.
Great to see you again. First of all, can you please introduce yourself for everybody?
Sure.
Maybe in the region.
Andarija. Wacha Hanakan Howell. Smithy Ryan. Hanakan Aish Bikaza Ma Sebastianin.
Okay.
I'm originally from Canada, and I've been working in personal development. So I work for a company called Franklin Covey, and we do corporate training. We teach courses like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and other ones like that to help people grow in their effectiveness and in their leadership at companies. I do team buildings as well. And I teach part-time at a British university on personal development as well. So I love to pass on what I've been learning. I love to read and learn myself and share that. And that's why I have a YouTube channel. I love living in Morocco. I love working with young entrepreneurs. So that's a lot of my videos are kind of focused on helping young people succeed in important areas in life and find significance. So it's great to be here with you all.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I want to say only that it's a pleasure to have you today with us, and thank you for taking time to meet us today. So thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Everybody here has watched the video, and you know, I asked them to prepare questions. So they have. Who wants to go first, guys? Let me go first. You know, like you said, you've operated in the personal development area, and you've done it not only in Morocco, but in a number of countries as well. Do you think that procrastination ranks high as a problem that people suffer from?
I do. I think especially young people. I talked about in the video how people like to have a deadline to provide pressure for them. It's like when there's something that they're forced to do that helps them overcome their own temptations to stay in bed or to just relax and be entertained, whether that's Netflix or social media or even reading a book. But doing the work that they need to do can just continuously be pushed away. But as you get older, you have more and more responsibilities. So, when you're a full-time student, you may only have 15 to 20 hours of class a week. And if you miss one of those classes, there may not be a lot of huge consequences. You probably only have about 24 weeks plus exam weeks the entire year. So as you get a job and you start working in your career, your responsibility, the amount of time that you have committed really radically increases. You don't have as much free time as you did previously. And then if you get married, you have the relationship with your spouse. And then if you have children, you have more and more responsibility and less just empty or free time. And so I think amongst young people, they have the hardest time with procrastination, though I will say it plagues everybody. But the other factor, I think, is our mobile phones. And that is just a real cause of being distracted. And there's just always something very interesting, very entertaining right in our hand, right in our pocket, right in our purse. It's always right there. Yeah. And so anytime that I'm in the car or on the tramway or standing in line or waiting for the bus, I can instantly be entertained. And so I get in the habit of turning to that anytime I'm bored. Well, then when I have a big assignment or a project and it's difficult and I'm struggling to concentrate and I get bored, I have this habit of, well, there's an escape. There's something I really enjoy right here. I can just quickly turn to it. So I think it's a growing problem.
Right. Guys, who wants to ask the next question?
I can go first or second.
Yes.
Hello, Ryan. So, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man.
So I have written down 3 questions, but maybe I would ask just 2. The first one, you said in the video, morning matters, and what if I'm not a morning person? This tip would work anyway, or I have to stick with my, you know, my rhythm?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the idea with the video, or what the things I presented in that, were that in the mornings is when your willpower is strongest. And so as the day goes on and you've had to concentrate, you've had to interact with people or do things that are challenging, you've had to make a lot of decisions, you've had to exert your mental energy and your willpower, it's getting more and more tired. And so when it comes to doing something that's mentally challenging, whether that's something you have to concentrate on, or whether it's that you have to choose something that's hard, snack, whatever that is, some sort of a dessert or something. And so it would be tempting to do something that feels good in the short term, but there's a long-term consequence to your health. Or if you think, oh, I should read this book, or I should start on this project, but I'm just tired out after a long day and I want to continue going with my series, or I want to just scroll social media. It's harder to make the right decisions when your willpower is drained. So the other thing that I can't remember if I kept it in the video or if it got cut when I was editing it, another benefit to mornings, if you wake up and get started before most people are active, then you have less interruptions. So I don't get a lot of messages, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls at 6:30 in the morning. I get a lot more at 10:30 in the morning. And so if I want to really concentrate or pay attention, that's a great time. Or I have 3 children, and so once my kids wake up, you know, the day has started and I'm needed and I must engage with my family. I have responsibilities. But while everybody's sleeping, then I have more freedom to use my time without being distracted. Now, if you're not a morning person, then what I would recommend is scheduling a chunk of time like later in the morning, but where you kind of have this appointment or this block of time designated to do these difficult or challenging tasks, you know, whether it's studying for an exam or completing a large project or doing some research, rather than saying, I'll do it tonight at 11 p.m.
Okay.
Because there's a strong chance that your willpower could be depleted by then. And that's often why those people say, I work best under pressure, because it's really only until they have that pressing deadline stressing them out that they're able to focus and say no to Netflix and yes to their homework.
Right.
Okay, it's clear. And for my second question, what would be the 7th tip to overcome procrastination? You talked about 6 and maybe 7th one.
Yeah, that was just a joke.
Yeah, you know what the joke means, Iman?
Yeah, of course.
Right. Ramzi, do you have any questions? You said you have to prepare too?
Yes. I had a question about the second tips, the elephant rule. But now seeing your question about how do you eat an elephant, I get the image. But I have a question for Ryan about the urgent and important task. I understand from the video that we have to start with the important tasks. but sometimes we have a situation that we have to start to deal with the urgent tasks. And I like to know how we can deal with this situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's always things you don't control that happen in our life. There's unforeseen or unpredicted circumstances that come up, and we need to deal with it if it's something that's important. And so whenever something comes at us, it's something we have to decide, is this important or is this not important? You may have seen the kind of time matrix. It's called the Eisenhower time matrix, and it's like a chart that has importance and urgency, and each box has two characteristics. And so the box that's something that's important and that's urgent, that's a crisis, or that's a pressing deadline, that's an emergency. You really have to work on this, you know, and this is why some people, they wait until they have this deadline, until it's a crisis. That's when they truly focus, and they like to spend time in that box. The problem is sometimes something that's urgent may not be important. So for example, if my phone rings right now, if my phone starts buzzing, I don't really know if it's something important or not important. And now I can see, you know, who's calling. There's call display, which helps give me more information to make that decision. But all I know is that it's urgent. It's happening right now. In real time, my phone is ringing and I have to make a decision. Am I going to stop what I'm doing now and give that my attention? And so the quadrant of something that's urgent but not important is a distraction. It's taking me away from things that are important. Now, in order to be truly effective and to make progress on our goals, we have to be able to get into the quadrant of time that is important but not urgent. If we spend time in that quadrant, then we'll spend less time in the emergency quadrant. So let me give you a couple quick examples. For example, my personal health. If I'm not sick, then my health it's important, but it's not urgent. If I don't eat well today or get a good night's sleep or drink enough water or exercise or see the doctor, it's okay, I can do it tomorrow. You know, I had a really busy day. It's not urgent. But every day that I let my health slide, we get one day closer to a crisis. One day closer to being sick, and now I have to cancel my day and go see the doctor or stay in bed, or it wasn't
important and urgent.
Yeah, it wasn't urgent, but then slowly over time it moved to the box of being urgent. Same thing with like your car maintenance. I don't have to get my oil changed. I just passed 100,000 kilometers on my car, and usually every 10,000 I go and get my oil changed. And so I need to go and do that, but I don't have to do it tomorrow. I can do it, you know, later. But as the kilometers keep growing, it gets more and more urgent and more of a risk that I'm going to do some damage to my vehicle. And so think about studying for an exam. Zubair might give you an assignment or say, we're going to have a test and it's going to be March 30th. Well, that is so far away. Is it important? Yes. Is it urgent? No. And so you wait and wait, but then slowly over time, all of a sudden it's March 24th, March 25th, and now you're in that quadrant of emergency. It's urgent now. So we have to deal with the crises that are coming at us. But once those are dealt with, we need to shift our focus to spend time on things that are important, but not yet urgent.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Guys?
Can I just recommend, I'm just going to put in the chat box the Eisenhower time matrix.
Yes, please.
Yes.
So you can, if you just type that into YouTube, and also if you type in put first things first into YouTube, you'll see some videos. It's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. And they use that time, let me call it the time matrix. and it'll show what I'm talking about and explain it and really help the visual come through.
Right. Suad, Sarah, Samira, Najat, Munsif.
Hi, Ryan.
Suad.
This is
Hi,
Monsef.
Monsef.
Nice to meet you. I'm going to talk about the first rule, doing things the morning. Experience has shown that we are more efficient in the morning, but it assumes that you are awake early in the morning, and this is a big challenge for a lot of people. So to wake up early for some people is very difficult. So maybe we can talk about the rule 0, which is to learn to get up early. I'm talking about getting up at maybe 6 a.m. or before, because experience has shown that we are more effective and we can do a lot of things during this period. Maybe this is
Yeah, a question related to that. Thank you, Munsif, for bringing that up. A question related to that. Is there such a thing as a morning person? Because I've always a morning person, or not a morning person, because I've always, as a student, I always said that about myself. But later, I realized that I had no problem waking up, early and getting things done, starting from 6 a.m. in the morning.
I'm talking about Moroccan habits generally, because the video was about.
But sometimes we I think we have two kind of people. Some people they just rise naturally at 5:30, 5 a.m. without any problem. They will get their smoothie. They will have some exercise, some working out, and there are another kind who will maybe wake up early, but they are forced to wake up early because of studies or because of work or kids or something else, and they will be just like dazed and groggy, and that's the type of not morning person that I was talking about. And
right.
I'm this kind of person. I wake up every day at 6 a.m. and still I'm not a morning person.
Right.
No.
And the second question is about how to eliminate distractions. Sometimes it's not that easy when we are working, for example, in an open space. Based on my experience, when you are working on open space and everybody sometimes ask your help, sometimes you can change the place, but sometimes it's not easy to change the place, and it's not easy to say no to people, to say that I'm busy, I can't give you an answer now, or it's sometimes you have to deal with that. And it happened to me. You came the morning with the checklist and you say that I have this, it's important to do at first, and by the end of the morning you see that you have done nothing and the checklist is didn't change.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to discuss, and it's not just something you have to decide. You need to talk it through with your colleagues. And if you think about at a workplace, there's different levels. There's people above you, and your boss, and there's people on your level that are your peers, and there's people who are below you. And this question, the answer to this question changes for each of those relationships. So somebody who's below you, if they come and say, oh, can I help you with something, or can I get your help with something, you might feel more responsibility because they're your direct reports. And so you need to make sure they're being effective. And that's one of your important roles. But you also have more authority to say, yeah, come back in 45 minutes. I'm just in the middle of something and I have this time set aside. I can't help you right now. Why don't you work on this other thing? Come back in 45 minutes. With your peers, you may not have as much responsibility to oversee them, but you also don't have as much authority to say, no, I'm working on this right now, or to set their priorities. And so it's really tied into your relational connections with all those people. But one thing I want to challenge you to think about is that we really, over time, shape people's expectations. And so if you're the person, Monsef, that always says yes and always helps me when I've got an issue, I can really start to become dependent on you, and I just go to you because it's actually easier than trying to solve the problem myself. And eventually I could be coming and asking you questions that I could have just Googled because you always say yes, and I'm more effective for me. Now it's making you ineffective, but you haven't set any boundaries. You've never turned me down. And so if you think about your phone as a good example, if I said to you right now, I want you to send a WhatsApp message to somebody not in your house and not on this call, anyone in your contacts, and the first person to get a reply, I'll send you 200 dirhams. Now, if you were to think about your contacts, as you go through them all, you would eliminate some. You would think, no, I'm not going to write her because she takes forever to reply. And then you might think of somebody else. You think, oh, he's the perfect person. That guy, his phone is glued to his hand. He always replies instantly. He's my fastest replier. And who created that expectation? Who shaped your understanding of how quickly they reply or how glued they are to their phone? It was their actions over time. So their behavior shaped their expectations. So in a very polite way, you can start to change your team or your colleagues' expectations. You could tell them all, hey guys, I'm struggling to get my work done, so I've got this block of time set aside. I write busy on Outlook or on Teams, or I turn off my email notifications for that 1 hour. Maybe you could put some sort of a visual representation. Like people, if they have offices that they can close, they sometimes have something they put on the doorknob. But if you're in an open office environment, it might be something that you just put like a little physical sign. Hey, just give me a set time. I'll be available at this time. To help, it takes time to change people's expectations, but to help you have those boundaries where you can get some focused, deep work done and not just be solving everybody else's problems.
I agree.
Right.
It's really best if the team discusses this together rather than just one person deciding, I want to be more effective, I don't want to be distracted. That's why when we teach this with Franklin Covey, you can change the whole culture of the organization by everybody discussing this together and understanding, hey, I don't want to put somebody else into a distraction. So let's start to communicate and respect people's spaces, even if we can see them physically.
Right. One of the things that we do is, in our internal communication is when, for example, I'm in this class right now and there's something happening, someone wants to tell me about it, they have to say in the beginning, important, urgent, and then I check my phone. Otherwise, I'll just, I will just not pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, can I say one more thing about that?
Sure.
I left a friend a message last night, and it was a voice message, and it was like so long. It was 8 minutes long. There was a couple different messages, and it was 8 minutes. And then I wrote at the end, it's not urgent. You can listen to this tomorrow, because it was already, 9 or 10 p.m.
Right.
And so I was letting him know, because you can't tell when you're seeing that voice message waiting for you, is this important? Or I was letting him know, no worries. You can check this tomorrow. So that was helping him make a better decision about how to use his time.
Right. Yes, Chad?
Yes, I have a question. So in the video, you give us 6 tips about how to overcome procrastination. And you start by morning matter and you finish by strengthening your why. So my question is, I want to know if there is any purpose behind this order, and also if we can change it, because in my point of view, having a clear vision should be first, because when I have a clear vision, I will be convinced why I need to do it. And when I am convinced why I need to do it, I will start setting my tiny goals, as you said, setting my milestone, getting the energy and the motivation to do it. And also I will stay focused. So for me, strengthening your why should be, if
Right.
there is any order for that tips, should be the first tips, and the all other tips can be deducted by having only this first clear vision.
That's a good question. I had the same thoughts when I saw that last tip, but that tip last. What can you tell us about?
I think Suad's right. I think it should be first. I should have done it the other way. Some of the other tips kind of fit together, so it's like you build momentum, but then you got to eliminate distractions. That those 2, 3, and 4 kind of worked together really well. But I agree with Suad. Number 6 could be number 1 or should be number 1. Begin with why. And I've done other videos where I talk about, begin with the end in mind, or start with a vision. So I agree with you.
Right.
If I may, I
Yes, you may.
yeah. In this context, yeah, I agree with you. It's in the logical priority we have to start with the why. But for me, and I think for any chronic procrastinator, we need the will. And if I am watching this video and I start by strengthening my will, it's something that I will see as huge, as very huge. So when I start with morning matters, for me, it's something that I can do. It's something that is easy. It doesn't, I don't have to give a lot of efforts to do that. And when I, for the second one, when we are talking about one bite time, yeah, it's very easy, and it's relaxing in some way. You know what I mean? So I think in the order that we have in the video, it will. I have the expression in French, not in English. I'm sorry. It's something that will help the person, in his working, in his personal working, not working, personal working, personal improvement.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point too. You're both making good points. Maybe if you're watching the video just as an individual that's just wanting to learn a little bit, it's nicer to start with something simpler or easier, like, hey, you should think about your mornings and scheduling hard things early on in the day. But I think what Suad is saying is also really valid, that maybe in importance, number 6 is the most important, that you really have to know why you're doing something, because we procrastinate on things that we don't want to do, or things that are difficult. Even if we want to do it, it's hard. It's not as easy as picking up our phone. And so we've got to have a real reason to get over that challenge of choosing the best thing in the long run.
Well, I stopped myself. I had a huge issue with procrastination, and I stopped having issues with procrastination the moment I started doing things that I love. I had it when I was a student, but the moment I worked, it totally disappeared, because I love what I do. So yeah. So the moment you answer the why, everything becomes easier. Asdin, do you have a question that you want to ask?
Yes. First, I should thank Mr. Ryan Kirk for exchanging and communicating with us, and giving us some advices to conquer this phenomenon.
My pleasure.
procrastination. But I think we Moroccan, we suffer from this phenomenon because it's encrusted in our culture. For example, we say بالمال يتكلبوا دنجال. يعني state by state, the aubergine will be eaten. And we say les herbes ماتوا. Who hurry up will die. Donc it's I think it's in our culture. We don't.
Do you think, Ryan? Do you think that's specific to Moroccans? Because for all I know, there are a lot of people from all different cultures suffering from it. Do you think Moroccans do suffer from procrastination more than other people from other cultures?
I think what Azzedine is describing, you can generalize. There's like cold cultures and warm cultures, and it usually does connect with the weather. And typically, some of the countries in the north, the whole culture is shaped by the harsh winter, the difficult winter. Because if you don't do the work when the sun is shining, you're gonna die.
Yes.
And so it's not the case now because we have heated houses, etc. But the whole culture has been shaped from the years past where you had to really make sure you did the work before the coming winter. And that tends to make people more task-oriented, more time-conscious, less relaxed. But I think even in that culture, it still can be a struggle to do the work you need to do when you should be doing it. So I think there's some overlap with what Azzedine is saying, but I think procrastination is something that all cultures of the world can struggle with.
All right. Samira, Sarah, Najat?
Can I teach you?
Yes, you can, Hazar.
Hello, Mr. Ryan.
Hello, Hajar.
And for step, eliminate this distraction. You said that you put your phone away or sign out, but sometimes the biggest distractions appear in our mind, sometimes by thought or feeling or memory. How to deal with that?
So when you're trying to work and focus, your mind is wandering?
Yeah. Maybe you think about something or else.
Yeah, so a couple things that come to mind first would be to consider your environment. Like for example, some people will realize that, hey, when I'm sitting up at my desk, sitting up straight, and I'm in my workplace, it's sort of telling my brain now's the time to work. Whereas if I'm sitting on my bed with my laptop, even if I don't have my phone with me, it's still a more relaxed environment and I tend to not be as concentrated or focused. Or sometimes it's the surroundings, like Monsef was describing, when there's lots of noise or lots of stimulus, lots of things you can see. Some people need to be in a real quiet place or put headphones on to block out the sound. That can happen. But another thought that comes to mind is that our brain can be trained. And so it's hard work to think and to concentrate. It's not easy, it's difficult. And so just like if you were going to start running, when you start running, depending on your level of fitness, after a few steps or a few kilometers, you're gonna get tired and your muscles are gonna start telling you, enough, Safi, let's stop. Let's sit down and stop, this is enough. And you have to push through when you want to stop, or push through your muscles getting tired or your breath, losing your breath. in order to build strength so that next time you can go further. And that takes time. And over time, you could run a marathon. You know, if you did the work, you could do it. And I think it's similar with our brains, that if you have always been somebody who every moment you hear a ding on your computer, you stop, you check your phone, you've trained your brain to, you know, jump from one thing to the next. You know, if this video is boring, you just quickly swipe to the next one until you see something that's entertaining or interesting. If you're in class and Zubair's talking, you're not following him, or he says something that's difficult, or you're finding it boring, you're going to open another screen and start looking at something. If you've trained yourself in that way, it's going to be difficult to train yourself another way, to retrain your brain. But it's just like another muscle where over time you can begin to focus. And so when that thought comes up, you can push it aside and say, well, no, not right now. Or another idea is you can have like little pieces of paper. So sometimes you think of something and it is important. Your brain just happened to remind you, oh, I'm supposed to call that person. Okay, quickly write it down, but then get back focused. Don't lose that focus on what you were doing that's important. One picture that's really helped me, if you can imagine somebody who's scuba diving, you know, where you have the tank and you can breathe underwater.
Right.
You have to go down really, really deep, and you have to do it slowly. It takes time to go down deep. You can't just swim straight to the bottom. You have to give your body time to adjust pressure, because you have air in every cell of your body. There's oxygen in your bloodstream. And so the pressure changes as you go deeper, and you need to let your body adjust. So you need to swim down slowly. And then once you're down there, because it took so long, it can be dangerous and it can kill you to swim straight up to the surface. You can get like a bubble in your brain and you can die if you swim straight up, if you've been too deep. And I think of this like concentration. If you think about something that's difficult for you, you can't just go right from scrolling social media to right away thinking at your deepest level, being right at the edge of your brain's ability, your cognitive ability, the maximum that you can do. You know, you think about Einstein and some of these great thinkers, they were beyond us. What's your maximum? It takes time to kind of descend into that level of thinking for you. So maybe if you're working on trying to write something, you're trying to express your thoughts, it takes time to descend to that deep level of concentration. And then if right away you just quickly want to answer a text, it can be like swimming back up to the surface. And it's going to take you that same amount of time to descend and get back to that level that you were at. And so you let a phone or some distraction ruin that deep level of thinking that took you time to get to. So that's what minimizing distraction is all about.
Yeah, thank you.
Is this rule in contradiction with doing things in parallel?
Sorry, Monsef, do you mean like trying to multitask?
Doing tasks, yes.
Yeah, I mean, really, the brain really does one thing at a time. And so the idea of multitasking isn't doing two things at the same time, it's switching. Now, we can do some things subconsciously. So for example, I can drive my car while talking to my wife, because my conscious brain is focused on the conversation. But because I've been driving a car for years and years and years, a lot of the decisions about how to turn, how to push the gas, which gear to be in, those decisions are happening subconsciously. But the more difficult something is, the more I need to pay attention. You notice that English word, that pay, there's a price, it's a cost. You only have so much concentration. The more that something is requiring me to focus, the less I can multitask, the less I can do at the same time. So sometimes there's easy things, simple things, low level tasks that you can, jump between without any cost. But remember my picture of swimming deep. The things that require you to go deep, 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 that really require you to concentrate, you can't just switch out of it and switch back.
Right. All right. Yes, Samira?
Yes, hello, Ryan. Thank you for
Hey,
being
Samira.
with us today. I have a question. As you know, deadlines are a universal necessity in every job. And from your point of view or from your experience, do you think that the pressure is a good or a bad thing, especially to avoid the procrastinating? I'm talking about high pressure deadlines.
I think that a deadline to me is more like it can be responsibility. It's basically saying, okay, this needs to happen by this point. I have a responsibility. Now, what I was talking about in the video is when we don't do the work early and we wait until we're under pressure and under stress. And I don't believe that that's when we do our best work. So if Zubair gives you an assignment that's due on March 30th, I believe the best work you could do would be if you use the time well between now and then, rather than waiting until March 24th and just having 6 days when you were given 6 weeks. The idea that that's your best work, I don't believe that.
Right.
I believe people use the deadline to help them overcome their procrastination problem. They don't have the discipline to start in February when it's due in March. Now, some jobs, they don't give you 6 weeks notice. Things happen quickly, things can change radically. And, say for example, a new government rule gets passed surrounding COVID, and certain industries, they have to respond right away. And it is high pressure, and it's not their fault. It wasn't because of procrastinating or poor planning. It was something outside of their control. And so they need to respond well to that. I think there's a healthy amount of pressure that can push you to do your best. But when that pressure is sustained, like when it continues long term, it can do damage. We need to have times of rest, and we need to have times of recovering from those high stress situations. So if I have a team and we have a deadline and I push everybody, I rally the troops, meaning I get everybody motivated, guys, we got to get this deadline, this project's important, and we all work hard. What I'm going to be looking for as a leader is some reward and some space afterwards. Hey guys, we did it, we submitted the project, let's take the day off, or everybody go home at 2 p.m. You've earned it, those kinds of things to help people recover, because we can't just keep going at that pace or it's going to do damage.
Okay, one last question, please, if there is any. Because I promised Ryan that it will be 20 to 30 minutes long, and now it's past 45 minutes. Sorry about this.
Teacher?
Yes?
I don't have a question. I just want to thank Ryan for being here and for his time. Thank you so much, and thank you for precious advices. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Zubair, to have Mr. Ryan with us today.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
well, thank you, Ryan, for continuing to inspire us all. I've learned so much from your videos. This is definitely not the first video that I watched and implemented. This class has been recorded. I can put it online for you, or just parts of it, whatever we think that it's important to you. You guys will find it in the platform. Thank you guys for your attention. Thanks again, Ryan, for accepting to be with us. And let's call it a day.
Thank you guys so much. It's been great to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Have a good night.
Pleasure to meet you.
Okay, good night. Thanks again, Zubair.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, teacher. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for being here, guys.